welcome to another episode of Chaotic Torture RC. On the most recent video I did, I was working on a ground powder where I was going to put a Castle short course brushless system in it. And I made mention that I might do a tutorial on soldering up the battery connector for it. Excuse me, this is my son sitting in the background with me. Spring break, he's here with me, so he's just hanging out doing stuff on his iPad. Alright, first thing we're going to do is you're going to want to get, of course, your battery connector out. I use the Dean's connectors for mine. Let me see. Most of y'all that are familiar with this hobby know what Dean's connectors are. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Dean's connectors, and I'll need 2 pieces of small heat shrink tubing. I'll just do black and red because that's standard and traditional. I don't need them this long though, so I can trim them down some. I'll show you here in a moment. Anyways, I'm going to use 2 pieces about that long. Go ahead and slide your black over the black, of course. Your red over the red. And Castle pretends they're wires for their battery connectors, but your Dean's have no solder on them yet. Usually I have a helping hand station on my table, but today I don't have it. You can do it by hand. It's just be careful, don't burn yourself. What I'm going to use here is flux. It's just a paste. I don't know how well the camera will pick that up, but what I do is I just apply a little bit to the sides. I won't be hitting with the solder. All it does is it helps the solder flow and stick to it. Your solder already has a rosin flux base in it. It's not a necessity to do this, but it makes the job easier. And one of the key things with your soldering equipment, keep your tip clean. My station, I got a little sponge I keep wet that I can wipe down and stuff. Let that heat up a little more. I'm going to see where maybe my helping hands unit is. I'd really rather have it, but I don't see it handy at the moment. I will do this. I've done it in the past. I will take and use a pair of pliers just to set it in. Because first thing you're going to want to do is tin. Let me move everything out of the way for you here. Sorry for an unprepared video like this. Alright, you can see it there. First thing you want to do is tin it, and that's just adding your solder to it. I always add a little bit to the iron first, and then try not to breathe in the smoke any more than you have to. Be sure you get enough on there, but you don't want to overdo it. It's a little warm, so I'm not going to touch it with my hands, but I will lean forward and try to get you a close-up on there. You can see that there's solder smooth on there. It's not an overabundance. Alright, now get the speed control. Where did I set it? I slid it off to the side here. Be sure I still have my heat shrink tubing on. Now with Dean's, you can wire them a few different ways, because they got a one plug comes out from a fatter side where another plug is on a narrower side. I always use the fatter side of these for my positive. It's just something I've done for years. There's no right or wrong to it. It's all personal preference. But for my batteries that I use, I always use the wider side on the positive. So I will keep it that way for this speed control and any others that I do. That way I don't have to have separate batteries for separate things. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in here. Now what I'm going to do to join the wire to it, I'm just going to add a little bit of solder here just to help for the flow of things. And then I'll take my positive Heat it up a little bit. You never want to hold heat to things too long. Too much heat is bad. But you also want to get it hot enough to where the solder is flowing. If you don't have enough heat, then you'll get what they call a cold solder joint. And I'll show you what one of those are real quick. I will do a cold solder joint here. Alright, I held it on there. It's on there. Looks okay, but if I take and apply any pressure, it comes off. That is what a cold solder joint will get you. And that's what you don't want when doing this. Now let me just freshen that solder there up. It was a little clumpy after doing the cold joint and breaking it off. Just heat it on there and hold it there for a minute. And be careful while doing this. Things do get hot. I had an ex-family relative grab one of these soldering irons one time when I was doing a repair on a guitar, and I just previously told her and her sister not to grab them or grab it, and a few moments later when I have my back turned, I hear screaming and she's holding her hand like that with a burn across it from where she did grab it.
It's kind of like telling a kid not to touch an iron. They don't listen.
Basically the concept right there. Alright, now to do the other side. And I'm sorry that I don't have enough zoom in on this video to get you all closer. As time goes and I can afford it, I will get some better camera equipment. I'd like to get some of the wireless remote so I can bring you all in closer to see these things. But if someone has any questions about anything that I've done on any of my videos and needs a close-up of something or more information in detail, always feel free to ask and comment. I will try to respond and get you an answer or do something on camera specific for you to help your application. Alright, let that cool down. And that there is my soldered joint. Try to get a close up. It's really hard to see it, but they're not clumpy, not fat. Solid, secure. Let that cool just a moment, and then what I'm going to do for the next step, there's a few different ways you can do this process. I happen to have a heat gun, so I use it. A lot of people use lighters, but the shrink tubing, and the only purpose of this is to keep it clean looking, and also where you have your bare metal there, if you had it in a, say you have it in a chassis that's got some aluminum or whatever on it, and if it was to touch the same piece together, if you leave that open without covering it up, that will definitely cause some arcing and not good on your battery, especially for those that run lipos. But what I do is I slide that up over there on that side. I usually do both at the same time now that I'm running a heat gun to do this. And there's no real wrong way to do this. Just cover it up the best that you can, slide everything up, be sure it's tight. Like I said, some people use a lighter to do this. I happen to have a heat gun. I gotta turn it on. Let it run a few seconds. And it really doesn't take long, doesn't take much. But when you do this, let me see, I'll show you beforehand. You can see maybe a little bit where the red is a little taller. But as you apply the heat to it, it will shrink and draw it in. It's all nice and tight and conformed. You don't have to overdo it, don't want to burn it. It doesn't take much to get it done. Now that I've done that, I can plug a battery in safely. Back with the Dean's connectors, they can only plug in one way. And as you can see, everything worked as it should. And you got a nice clean solder joint. It's good connection. Like I said, you don't want to ever cake the solder on. Take your time, be patient. Don't grab nothing beyond the handle because it is hot. And be sure to keep your tip clean. Flux helps. And using the right solder for the application. This is just a lead-free rosin core solder. It's got the flux incorporated in the solder. It's not rocket science. It's a little bit of time, patience. Like I said, watch your heat and temperatures. You never want to hold the soldering iron onto a wire to the point where it's generating the heat through here, back here, and getting to the boards. That's not good. And if you're new with soldering, get you some scrap wire, recycle old appliances that are no good anymore and pull the wiring out of them and just practice tinning them and solder them together. The more you do it, it'll become easier. There's really several different approaches to soldering, but it's a simple, basic process. Hope this video helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments and I will respond the best that I can. If there's anything else that you would like to see or any more information about soldering, I would love to be able to help you on. If y'all have any tips or comments that may help me, or something you saw that I did that you may not agree with, or something can help my process of soldering a little better, please definitely feel free to share. Thank you for watching this episode. This is Chaotic Torture RC. Thanks.
Thank you for watching.